For as long as I can remember, a question has echoed in the quiet moments of my life, a gentle yet persistent whisper from the past. Who were the people who came before me? Like so many others, my story seemed to begin on a ship, with a painful severing from a homeland I could not name, and a history I could not claim. The branches of my family tree felt incomplete, ending abruptly in the dark soil of American slavery. I knew who I was in the present, but a significant part of my identity felt like a book with its first chapters torn out, leaving me to wonder about the origins of my story and the world my ancestors inhabited before their great displacement. This yearning for connection is a deeply human desire. We all want to know where we come from, to see our faces reflected in the faces of those who lived centuries ago. It's about more than just names and dates on a piece of paper. It's about understanding the legacy that flows through our veins. I would often look at old photographs, searching the eyes of my grandparents and great-grandparents, trying to see beyond their American experience. I wondered about the languages their ancestors spoke, the foods they ate, the beliefs they held dear, and the civilizations they built. The silence from that distant past was deafening, a void I felt compelled to fill. The search for answers became a personal quest, a pilgrimage into the archives of history and the very code of my DNA. It was a journey fueled by a deep-seated need to reclaim a narrative that had been forcibly taken. Standard history books offered little comfort, often painting a monolithic picture of Africa without acknowledging the vast and diverse tapestry of empires, kingdoms, and cultures that thrived there. I felt a growing sense that there had to be more to my story, a specific and powerful heritage waiting to be rediscovered. My identity felt borrowed, a label assigned by others, and I longed for one that was truly my own, rooted in a history I could finally understand. This journey was not just for me, but for my children and their children to come. I wanted to give them a foundation of identity that was solid and unwavering, a story that did not start with chains, but with crowns. It was about transforming a history of pain into a legacy of pride. The initial steps were uncertain, filled with more questions than answers, but each small discovery felt like finding a missing piece of a grand puzzle. It was the beginning of a profound transformation, one that would completely reshape my understanding of who I am and where I belong in the grand sweep of human history. As I dug deeper, I encountered a history that was new to me, a history of the Moors. I learned that the Moors were a powerful and influential people from North America, whose legacy stretched across continents. They were known for their great knowledge in science, mathematics, and architecture, building magnificent cities and centers of learning in places like Spain and Portugal. Learning this was like a light turning on in a dark room. The term Moor was not just a historical label. It represented a specific, identifiable group of people with a rich and documented history. This was a direct contrast to the broad and often vague identities I had known before. This discovery led me to understand why some people today choose to identify with their Moorish nationality instead of the term black. For them, black is a label that was assigned during the era of slavery, a color used to categorize and control people. It erases the specific cultures, languages, and national origins of their ancestors. By reclaiming their Moorish identity, they are moving away from a description based on skin color and embracing a nationality rooted in a specific historical lineage. It is an act of self-determination, a way of saying, I am not defined by a color, but by my heritage and my people's history. This shift in perspective is profound. It is about choosing to define oneself based on a legacy of builders, scholars, and explorers. The Moorish identity connects individuals to a grand narrative that predates the Atlantic slave trade, offering a direct link to a time when their ancestors were masters of their own destiny. It provides a sense of belonging to a great civilization, one that made incredible contributions to the world. This is not about rejecting one's skin color, but about rejecting the limited and often negative social constructs that have been attached to it over centuries of oppression and misinformation. For many, this re-identification is a healing process. It helps to mend the spiritual and cultural wounds inflicted by centuries of having their history denied. Claiming Moorish nationality is a declaration of sovereignty over one's own identity, It is a powerful statement that one story did not begin in subjugation, but is part of a long and noble continuum. It is a way to look in the mirror and see not the descendant of a slave, but the descendant of a Moor, a member of a nation with a rich and inspiring past. A past that was stolen but can now, finally, be reclaimed. Learning about my Moorish ancestry changed everything. It was as if I had been looking at a faded black and white photograph of my life, and suddenly it was restored in vibrant, brilliant color. A deep sense of pride began to well up inside me, a pride that was rooted in tangible achievements and a glorious past. I was no longer just a descendant of the enslaved. I was a descendant of navigators who sailed the seas, architects who designed breathtaking palaces, and scholars who preserved ancient wisdom while the rest of Europe was in the Dark Ages. This knowledge was more than just interesting trivia. It was a source of immense personal strength. This newfound heritage gave me a solid foundation on which to stand. Before, my identity felt like it was built on shifting sand, dependent on the perceptions and labels of others. Now, I felt anchored to a history that was strong, resilient, and awe-inspiring. I could walk with my head held a little higher, knowing that the blood of kings, queens, and brilliant thinkers flowed through my veins. The stories of the Moors became my stories. Their accomplishments felt like my accomplishments. This connection to a celebrated past filled a void I never even knew was so vast, giving me a confidence that was unshakable. This pride extended beyond my own personal feelings. It reshaped how I saw my community and our collective potential. The narrative of struggle and survival, while important, was now complemented by a narrative of greatness and innovation. It provided a powerful counter-narrative to the negative stereotypes so often portrayed in the media. Knowing we come from a people who were pioneers in so many fields instills a belief that we can achieve that same level of greatness today. It transforms our sense of what is possible, inspiring us to build, create, and lead, just as our ancestors did centuries ago. The feeling is one of wholeness. It is the feeling of finding the last missing piece of a puzzle you have been working on your entire life. This heritage is a gift, a treasure that was buried but never truly lost. Uncovering it has been the most empowering experience of my life. The pride I feel is not arrogant. It is a quiet, steady confidence that comes from knowing your true worth and the incredible legacy you carry. It is a reminder that my history is not one of shame, but one of immense and undeniable glory. Knowing your roots is like giving a tree the deep soil and clean water it needs to grow strong and tall. Without that connection to the past, we risk being like tumbleweeds, blown about by the winds of society, with no firm place to call our own. Discovering my Moorish heritage has allowed me to plant my own roots deep into the rich soil of history. It has given me a sense of stability and belonging that I had always searched for. This knowledge is the greatest inheritance I can receive, and it is the most important one I will pass on to future generations. True identity is a source of incredible happiness and peace. This journey has filled me with an overwhelming sense of hope. When you understand the greatness from which you came, you begin to see the greatness that lies within you. The struggles of the present seem smaller when viewed against the backdrop of a long and resilient history. My ancestors faced incredible challenges, yet they built empires and advanced human knowledge. Their strength and ingenuity are a part of my DNA. This simple fact gives me the courage to face my own challenges and the inspiration to dream of a better future for myself and my community. Embracing this true identity is an act of liberation. It is about breaking free from the mental chains that have held us back for far too long. It is about seeing ourselves through our own eyes, not the eyes of those who sought to diminish us. This new perspective is not about creating division, but about building strength from within. A person who is secure in their own identity is better able to connect with others in a meaningful way. My journey has taught me that self-love and cultural pride are the first steps toward building a more just and understanding world for everyone. As I look to the future, I do so with a heart full of optimism. My past is no longer a mystery, but a source of power. My identity is no longer a question, but a confident declaration. I am connected to a legacy of greatness, and I am excited to add my own chapter to that incredible story. This journey of discovery has been more than a history lesson. It has been a rebirth. It has shown me that by looking back and honoring our ancestors, we can build a brighter, more hopeful, and more authentic future for ourselves and for all who will come after us.